What if the masterpiece you are perfecting is already a tombstone, a monument to a victory that will never come? You polish the stone, arrange the flowers, but the war was lost before you ever stepped onto the field. The greatest enemy is not the critic, not the competitor. It is the flawless plan that never has to breathe the air of reality. There is a darker, more potent truth to victory, one that the perfect soldier, in his immaculate barracks, will never know. This is the art of the decisive strike over the perfect war. Behold the common mind, trapped in a prison of its own magnificent design. This is the mind of the perfectionist. He is not lazy. On the contrary, he is tirelessly devoted. He is the grand architect of castles in the sky, the meticulous general who maps a battle so flawlessly that victory is assured on paper. He spends his nights sharpening his sword, polishing his armor, and rehearsing his war cries in the silence of his chambers. His plans are breathtaking in their complexity and scope. Every contingency is accounted for, every possible flaw identified and eradicated. His work, when it is finally unveiled, will be a testament to genius, an unassailable fortress of logic and effort. But there is a fatal flaw in his grand design. The gates of the fortress never open, the army never marches, the sword, sharpened to a razor's edge, never tastes battle. His war is a war of attrition against an phantom enemy, the specter of imperfection. He is paralyzed by the fear that a single misplaced stone will compromise the entire castle, that a single chink in his armor will invite a fatal blow. This fear is not born of caution, it is born of ego. He equates his creation with his self-worth, and so an imperfect creation signifies an imperfect self. This is the conventional path. It is a path of reactivity, of emotional bondage to an impossible ideal. The majority of people walk this path. They become victims not of their circumstances, but of their own standards. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect knowledge, the perfect inspiration. And while they wait, the world moves on. The territory is claimed by others, not by the most brilliant, but by the most decisive. The perfectionist, in his quest to avoid any and all criticism, ensures his greatest work will never be judged at all. His masterpiece becomes his mausoleum, a beautiful, silent testament to a potential that was never realized. He did not lose the war. He simply refused to fight it, believing the only victory worth having was a bloodless, effortless, and perfect one. This is the ultimate weakness, disguised as the highest of standards. But the strategist walks a different path. He operates from a place of cold, timeless wisdom. He understands a truth that is lost to the common mind. The ancient master Sun Tzu laid this principle bare when he stated, "Victory is the main object in war. If it is long in coming, weapons are blunted and morale is crushed." This is not a call for mediocrity, it is a profound insight into the nature of reality and resources. The strategist knows that time, energy, focus, and motivation are not infinite. They are his troops, his supply lines. A prolonged campaign, even one in pursuit of a noble goal like perfection, is the most draining war of all. Every day spent in endless planning is a day your weapons dull. Your creative edge softens, your resolve wanes, your financial reserves deplete. Every week that passes while you refine a single detail is a week that your morale is crushed under the weight of inaction. The fire of your initial passion begins to smolder, starved of the oxygen of real-world feedback. The strategist understands that the perfect plan, executed too late, is a losing strategy. True strength is not found in the flawless design, but in decisive, calculated action. The strategist does not fear imperfection. He uses it. He sees launching a project that is 80% ready not as a failure, a compromise, but as a strategic maneuver. It is a reconnaissance mission into enemy territory, the territory of reality. This action forces the world to react. It provides invaluable intelligence, feedback, data, criticism that no amount of isolated planning could ever reveal. The perfectionist lives in a world of theory. The strategist operates in a world of practice. He knows that momentum is a weapon in itself. An imperfect army on the march holds more power than a perfect army standing still. The sound of its boots on the ground shapes the psychological terrain, striking fear into the hesitant and forcing the uncommitted to choose a side. The silence of infinite preparation, by contrast, is the sound of the void. It is the echo of irrelevance. The strategist chooses the visceral chaos of the battlefield over the sterile tranquility of the barracks, for it is only on the battlefield that victory is possible. The path of the strategist is to embrace controlled imperfection, to wield speed as a weapon, and to understand that progress, not perfection, is the engine of power. The gilded cage of the ideal is left for others to inhabit. For perfection is the gilded cage the common mind builds for itself, while the strategist finds freedom on the battlefield of reality. Comment: action creates power. To internalize this principle and subscribe to learn how to turn speed into victory. To shift from the paralysis of the flawless to the power of the swift, one must comprehend the invisible forces at play. This is not a war fought with steel, but with perception, timing, and knowledge. The strategist's mind is his greatest weapon, and his understanding of the deep principles of conflict allows him to conquer objectives while others are still drafting their plans of attack. Sun Tzu's wisdom provides the keys to this hidden war, revealing how to turn the very act of imperfect, rapid execution into an unassailable advantage. These are not mere tactics, they are fundamental laws of the psychological universe, as immutable as gravity. The first principle is that of knowledge, born from contact. Sun Tzu declared, "If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles." The perfectionist believes he knows himself. He spends countless hours in introspection, examining every facet of his creation in a sterile vacuum. He memorizes its every strength and weakness, polishing the former and attempting to eliminate the latter. But this is a hollow knowledge, an echo in a sealed chamber. It is the self-knowledge of a king who has never left his castle walls. He knows his own corridors intimately, but he is utterly ignorant of the world he intends to rule. His enemy, reality itself, remains a mystery. The market, the audience, the unpredictable currents of human desire and societal change are, to him, mere theoretical constructs. He plans his campaign on a map that bears no resemblance to the actual breathing landscape. The strategist, however, understands that true self-knowledge is impossible without knowledge of the other. The only way to truly understand the strength of your sword is to strike it against another's shield. Therefore, he does not see the launch of an 80% solution as a premature conclusion. He sees it as the beginning of intelligence gathering. This act of releasing his work into the world is the deployment of 1,000 invisible spies. Every interaction, every piece of feedback, every criticism, every sale, every sign of indifference, these are not verdicts on his worth, but invaluable dispatches from the front line. They are the scouts who return with a true map of the terrain. They reveal where the ground is soft, where the enemy's defenses are weak, and where their hunger truly lies. The perfectionist in his isolated tower is blind. He works with assumptions. The strategist, having engaged the world, works with truths. The flaws that are revealed in his imperfect creation are not sources of shame. They are the most precious form of knowledge. They are precise coordinates showing where reinforcements are needed, where the strategy must adapt. This is the profound wisdom of the strategist. He who acts first, learns first. While the perfectionist is still trying to build an unsinkable ship in a dry dock, the strategist has already launched a simple raft, learned the currents of the sea, and is well on his way to the distant shore, patching the leaks as he goes. The second principle is that of deception, for all warfare is based upon it. The most potent deception, however, is not the one aimed at your competitor. It is the one aimed at your own internal resistance. The perfectionist is the victim of a grand, self-imposed illusion, the belief that perfection is not only attainable, but necessary for survival. This belief is a comforting mirage that masks a deeper terror, the fear of judgment, of contact, of the brutal verdict of reality. It is a strategic deception that works against the self, a form of internal sabotage, where the commander convinces his own army that the only acceptable form of movement is levitation. The strategist, conversely, wields deception as a tool for liberation. His primary target is his own paralysis. By launching swiftly, he executes a feint against the twin demons of doubt and hesitation. He acts before they can fully mobilize their crippling arguments. This initial act of courage creates its own momentum, a psychological cascade that makes the next action easier, and the one after that easier still. But the deception radiates outward. Sun Tzu taught to appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak. The perfectionist in his endless silent preparation appears weak, hesitant, and inconsequential. He projects an aura of inactivity. The strategist, by launching an imperfect but tangible creation, appears strong. He radiates energy, confidence, and most importantly, forward movement. The world is drawn to motion. It perceives the person who acts, who produces, who ships, as a force of power. This perception solidifies into a reputation. The flaws in his work are often overlooked, overshadowed by the sheer audacity of his execution. He is seen as a leader, an innovator, a creator who is shaping the future, while the perfectionist is seen as a critic, a scholar, a relic who is still commenting on the past. The strategist understands that perception is reality. He creates a narrative of relentless progress, and both his allies and his adversaries begin to believe it. This belief becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, attracting resources, opportunities, and talent, further fueling his advance. He has deceived the world into seeing a conquering hero, when in fact he began as a simple soldier who was merely brave enough to take the first step onto the field. The final and most crucial principle is the mastery of the terrain. The strategist knows, as Sun Tzu taught, that the clever combatant imposes his will on the enemy, but does not allow the enemy's will to be imposed on him. The terrain, in this invisible war, is the psychological and social landscape. It is the market's attention span, the cultural conversation, the existing competitive pressures. This landscape is fluid, ever-changing. The perfectionist is a passive observer of this terrain. He waits for the conditions to be perfect. He desires a calm sea, a following wind, and a cloudless sky before he will set sail. He is waiting for an invitation from the world. But the world does not extend invitations. It responds to invasions. In his passivity, he allows the will of the enemy, the chaos of circumstance, and the actions of others to be imposed upon him. The strategist is not a passive observer. He is a geological force. He understands that by acting, he fundamentally alters the terrain itself. The first person to release a product in a new category defines that category. The first to publish a powerful idea sets the terms of the ensuing debate. He places a flag on the hill, and suddenly the entire battle is about that hill. Everyone else is forced to react to his position. They must either attack it, support it, or define themselves in opposition to it. But they cannot ignore it. He has created a new center of gravity. Consider a barren plain. The perfectionist drafts meticulous blueprints for a magnificent, self-sustaining citadel. The strategist, in a fraction of the time, digs a simple well. Immediately the terrain is transformed. Travelers now detour to the well for water. A small community springs up around it. Trade routes are redrawn. By the time the perfectionist's flawless blueprints are complete, a living, breathing town already exists. A town whose existence was dictated by the strategist's simple, imperfect, but decisive action. He did not wait for the terrain to be favorable. He made it favorable by imposing his will upon it. This is the ultimate power, not to play the game better than anyone else, but to create the game, to draw the board, and to set the rules before anyone else even realizes that a contest has begun. Before a single soldier moves on the map, before a product is launched or a word is spoken, the decisive battle is fought and won within the silent, boundless chambers of the mind. The external world is merely a mirror, reflecting the order or chaos that reigns within. To believe that strategy is concerned only with the observable actions of others is the folly of the amateur. The master of invisible warfare knows that the primary territory to be conquered is the self. All external power is born from this internal sovereignty. The first front in this war is internal. The mind of the perfectionist is a realm in a state of perpetual civil war. Two tyrannical forces vie for control: pride and fear. Pride, the gilded emperor, demands a creation of impossible flawlessness. It whispers that anything less than a masterpiece is a public declaration of inadequacy. It insists on a standard so celestial that it could never be sullied by the hands of mortal men or the judgment of a critical world. Opposing this emperor is fear, the shadowy assassin. Fear whispers of ridicule, of failure, of the devastating shame that would follow the unveiling of an imperfect work. It paints vivid portraits of every potential critic, every mocking voice, every way in which the creation could be found wanting. The perfectionist is the battlefield upon which these two forces clash. His creative energy is not directed outward toward production, but is entirely consumed by this internal conflict. The result is a total and complete paralysis. The kingdom is in ruins, its resources squandered on an unwinnable war, while the outside world remains completely unaware of the furious, silent struggle. The strategist, however, has achieved a different state. His mind is not a battleground, but a quiet, well-ordered kingdom over which he rules with absolute authority. He understands that emotions are not his masters. They are not tyrants to be obeyed, nor insurgents to be violently crushed. They are merely scouts, messengers from the frontiers of his consciousness delivering information. He observes the arrival of pride, notes its message, and calmly dismisses it. He acknowledges the presence of fear, listens to its warnings of potential risk, and then files the information away for rational consideration. He is not devoid of these feelings, but he is not governed by them. This supreme self-control is the strategist's most guarded secret. It is the source of his unnerving patience and his capacity for sudden, shocking speed. Because his self-worth is not tethered to the flawless outcome of any single project, he is liberated. He can act. He can release something that is good enough into the world because he understands its true purpose is not to be a monument to his ego, but a tool to achieve an objective. The first and greatest victory, the one that precedes all others, is this victory over the self. It is the establishment of an unshakable inner peace that allows for the most ruthless and effective external action. Once the inner kingdom is pacified, the strategist turns his attention to the grand theater of perception. He knows that reality is malleable and that the perceptions of others are the clay from which he can sculpt his advantage. Sun Tzu taught his disciples to be formless, to be so subtle that they become invisible, so mysterious they are soundless. Thereby, he said, you can be the director of the opponent's fate. The perfectionist is the epitome of form. He is utterly predictable. His long silences, his endless preparations, his visible hesitation, they are a clear broadcast of his internal state of fear and indecision. He is as readable as a book written in large, simple letters. The strategist, in contrast, cultivates an aura of profound inscrutability. He becomes a calm, placid lake whose surface perfectly reflects the sky, revealing nothing of the immense depths or the powerful currents that move within. His swift launching of an imperfect product is a masterstroke in this theater of perception. To the undiscerning eye, the rival, the critic, the common observer, it can be easily misinterpreted. They might see it as a sign of haste, of a lack of resources, or even of desperation. They may perceive him as weak, as vulnerable, as having exposed a flawed flank. And this is precisely the reaction the strategist anticipates. He offers them a carefully constructed illusion to attack. While competitors and critics focus their energy on the superficial flaws of his initial offering, they are blind to his true operation. They are attacking a ghost. The strategist's real war is being fought on a different level. He is gathering data, securing a foothold in the market's consciousness, and building momentum. He appears weak at the very moment his strength is growing exponentially. He is applying the supreme principle of appearing vulnerable, where he is in fact conducting the most critical phase of his campaign. He lets the world's obsession with superficial perfection become his shield, a distraction that occupies his enemies, while he fortifies his true position. He does not need to project an image of perfection. He projects something far more potent, an image of relentless, undeniable motion. In a world paralyzed by indecision, the one who moves is king. This consistent pattern of disciplined action and calculated perception forges the strategist's ultimate weapon, his reputation. An isolated act creates an impression. A series of acts builds a history. A consistent history, broadcast to the world, solidifies into a reputation. And a reputation is an invisible force, an extension of one's will that acts upon the world even in one's absence. It is a shadow that grows long and distinct with every decisive move. The perfectionist, cloistered in his workshop, casts no shadow. He is a ghost in the machine of the world, an unknown quantity. The strategist's shadow, however, is a tangible entity. It enters a room before he does. It sits at the negotiating table before he speaks a word. This shadow does not speak of flawlessness. It speaks of execution. It tells the world that here is an individual who brings ideas from the realm of the ethereal into the realm of the concrete. It communicates a history of speed, adaptation, and a relentless forward drive. This reputation becomes a strategic asset of incalculable value. It acts as a powerful deterrent. Potential adversaries will survey the terrain and see his shadow covering the ground they wish to occupy. They will hesitate, not because his current position is impenetrable, but because his reputation tells them he will adapt, iterate, and outmaneuver them at a pace they cannot match. They understand they would not be competing against a static product, but against a dynamic process. This is the height of strategic mastery. To cultivate a reputation so formidable that challenges are dissuaded and conflicts are won before they are ever declared. It is the peace that comes not from having the strongest fortress, but from being known as the most brilliant and unstoppable commander. You have navigated the treacherous labyrinth of the flawless mind. You have been armed with the timeless principles of the invisible war, learning to wield knowledge, deception, and the very terrain of reality as your instruments. Now, before the art of the final decisive stroke is revealed, the blow that solidifies all that has come before, ensure that you are subscribed. For the ultimate wisdom of an enduring victory is a sanctum reserved only for those who have completed the journey and are prepared to act. The final lesson is not about winning a battle, it is about ending the war. The moment of execution in the mind of the conventional warrior is a grand, thunderous crescendo. It is the final, earth-shattering charge, the unveiling of a weapon so perfect it obliterates all opposition in a single glorious instant. The perfectionist lives his entire life in anticipation of this singular moment. His is a strategy of the apocalypse. He is building a cataclysmic device, and he will not detonate it until he is absolutely certain it will reshape the world in his image. But because the conditions are never perfect, the certainty never absolute, his finger forever hovers over the button. The grand climax never arrives. The world is not changed by the most powerful weapon that was never built, but by the simple, functional tools that are actually used. The strategist understands that the decisive blow is not this mythical final act. The decisive blow is the first act. It is the swift, sharp, and seemingly premature strike that pierces the thick, suffocating membrane of inaction. The master Sun Tzu captured the essence of this moment with a sublime metaphor. The quality of the decision is like the well-timed swoop of a falcon, which enables it to strike and destroy its victim. Contemplate the falcon. It does not wait for its prey to present itself perfectly, motionless in the center of a barren field. It does not endlessly calculate the precise aerodynamics of a flawless dive. The falcon observes from a great height, patient yet alert. It conserves its energy, and when a fleeting moment of opportunity appears, a sliver of vulnerability, a momentary lapse in the prey's attention, it commits. The decision and the action are one. The swoop is an explosion of focused intent, a conversion of potential energy into lethal kinetic reality. Its deadliness comes not from its perfection, but from its timing and its absolute commitment. This is the nature of the strategist's attack. Hitting the publish button on an 80% ready manuscript, launching the beta version of a software, making the first sales call for a new business, these are the swoops of the falcon. They are not the end of the hunt. They are the decisive engagement. Each act is a calculated strike aimed not at an external competitor, but at the true enemy, paralysis. The target to be destroyed is one's own hesitation. This strike is not a loud, brutish affair. It is often quiet, almost anticlimactic. It is a click of a mouse, a signed paper, a spoken yes. But its consequences are seismic. It rips a hole in the fabric of the theoretical and allows the raw, unpredictable energies of the real world to flood in. This is the moment of true creation, and it is a moment the perfectionist, in his sterile laboratory, will never experience. Once the strike has been made, the true nature of victory reveals itself. The conventional mind believes that victory is a destination, a static state of rest and reward that follows the final battle. The perfectionist dreams of this state, a world where his flawless creation is unveiled to universal acclaim, after which he can finally rest, his work complete. This is the most dangerous illusion of all. The strategist knows that victory is not a destination, it is a process. It is the establishment of a new, more advantageous reality. The aftermath of the decisive stroke is not a time for celebration, it is a time for observation. The strategist does not bask in the glory of the launch. He retreats to a high vantage point, like the falcon returning to the sky, and he watches. He observes the consequences of his action as they ripple through the environment, the feedback, the data, the criticism, the market's response. This is the new terrain he has created. His imperfect creation was not the final word, it was the first word in a long and vital conversation with reality. Now, the work of consolidation begins. This is the phase of iteration, of adaptation, of relentless improvement fueled by real-world intelligence. He refines his creation not based on his own isolated assumptions, but based on the demonstrated needs and reactions of the world. This iterative loop is the engine of his power. His initial imperfect product slowly evolves, becoming stronger, more resilient, and more perfectly aligned with the terrain than any creation conceived in isolation ever could be. This process creates the enduring peace. It is not a peace born from the absence of conflict, but from the attainment of a state of profound strategic advantage. His reputation as a decisive executor, an individual who acts and adapts, becomes his greatest shield. Future challengers see not a static fortress to be sieged, but a living, evolving organism, a river that cannot be fought, only navigated. They are dissuaded from competing, not because his current offering is unassailable, but because they know that by the time they have developed a response, he will have already evolved into something new. The lasting peace he achieves is an internal one. It is the final liberation from the tyranny of pride and fear, the serene acceptance that the journey of creation is a perpetual cycle of action and adaptation. Herein lies the ultimate philosophical truth about power. The supreme power is not the ability to construct a perfect, immutable object. That is the power of a stonemason, building a tomb. The supreme power is the ability to become a relentless, adaptive force of creation. It is the power of life itself. The throne of the perfectionist is an ornate, exquisitely carved chair that sits forever empty in a locked room. The throne of the strategist is the turbulent center of a vortex of activity, a space defined not by static authority, but by continuous, unstoppable manifestation. People do not dare to approach it, not because they fear the ruler, but because they cannot withstand the sheer velocity of his creation. True victory is not about possessing the flawless crown, it is about becoming the force that shapes the kingdom, day by day, through decisive, imperfect, and relentless action. A good result that exists today is, and will always be, infinitely more powerful than the perfect result that exists only in the minds tomorrow.